This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Browne and Michael Uy.
Welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Uy.
I'm Morgan Browne.
And I'm the Podfather.
And we have a very special guest today. For the first time, the band's back together. Nomi Malik. Nomi
is in the house.
Yeah, how you doing today, Nomi?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming right off the plane as well.
No. I've been back for a couple of days.
You've been back for a couple of days?
Yeah.
So we were just having a quick chat about a little travel that Nomi just did, which is pretty cool.
Quick question. Do you think you have a good work-life balance? Because out of all, I would say, let's me jump right into it.
Sure.
Nomi, who is Nomi? Tell us a little bit about you and your business and how long you've been in the industry for.
So that's two questions. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
I'm Nomi Malik. I'm just a regular guy. Just grew up in Calgary, Alberta. Did my high school in Toronto, and then I moved out to Vancouver in '96. So I've been here for most of my adult life, so 25 years. I got licensed as an agent 11 years ago. I'm married. I've got a 9-year-old son. And I've been with Oakwyn Realty for about 6 years now, I think.
No way. Has it been 6
time
years?
just flies by, and Nomi's one of our top producing agents at the office, and I'm gonna brag about him a little bit. And he's a multi-year medallion member, which is in the top 10% of our industry, and he's been such a great member of our community and so transparent, so helpful to others, and everything like that. And his office is right across from mine, so we thought we'd have him on the pod, and he could share some of his wisdom, which he has a lot of.
Let me get into it. So back to my question about you, because I think from an observer side of you and your business, one reason why I thought it would be great to have you on the pod is because I feel like you have a really good work-life balance. And you work really hard, like you play really hard, but you do make time for your family and for travel. And do you think you do, or is it just me thinking that you do? You have this balanced man.
I have nothing to reference for balance. So I wouldn't know what that, this is what balance is. Okay, then I'm balanced. I'm extreme in everything. So I just feel like, if we're going to go have a vacation, let's have an awesome vacation.
Right.
If we're going to work, let's work. It probably takes people around us. I don't think it's just me, but like Morgan and Michael and everybody that's a real estate agent. I think it takes outside people to say things like, you guys work all the time. Like, yeah, sure. Right. It's not like 9 to 5 every single day. Right. But we're just available. So I think there's just ways to block time for things. I don't think it's about even being a realtor. I just think in general, a lot of people just don't know how to block time. So it feels like either you're not working that much or you're working too much. So I think I'm getting better.
They say that there's in real estate, it's not just full time, it's overtime.
Yeah,
right?
I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, one of the things that Michael taught me within the first 6 months of joining Oakwyn was you need to get an assistant. Right? You need to spend more time on not just the business, but with yourself. Right. I remember I was so excited. I hired my first assistant, and I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing now? And Michael's like, prospecting. I go, but I'm done that. I'm like, go read a book. It's just like, go spend time with your family. And I was just like, yeah, but I want to work.
Right.
So that was sort of like what I realized, like, oh, okay, so I've got this extra time. The phone's not ringing 24/7. I don't think anybody's phone rings 24/7. So that was sort of my first insight into, I can do other stuff that's not work related. And when the phone does ring, then I'm ready to take the call.
Right. So maybe you can go over some of your journey that you've had in real estate. So, obviously as a sole practitioner, and then now to, building your team and everything like that. Right.
Yeah. So I started, like I said, I started 11 years ago. So I started 11 years ago. When I started and got licensed, we were building our family. We were building single family homes in Langley. All right. I'm from Vancouver, but I ended up moving out there for a couple of years just to help my dad and the family with the business. And then I got licensed. Right. But once our projects were over within the first 2 years, I'm like, I don't know this city. I don't have friends here. I don't know people here. And if that's how you're supposed to build your business, then it's going to take a while to do that. So we moved back to Vancouver in 2013. I was with Sutton West Coast at that time. That office was here on Cambie and 57th, I think it was. Right. And then I kept driving by Oakwyn 16 and I'm like, where did the Blockbuster video go? And like, what's going on here? So I just walked into the office and I met with Mike. You guys had office space and you guys had walk-in. Yeah, I was a walk-in and Michael closed me. And he's been reaping the benefits ever since.
I have, yeah.
That's it's been a mutual friendship and relationship. But then I've been with Oakwyn since then, and my business went through the roof by the grace of God, and also meeting Michael and him just sort of saying, hey man, like, let me see your business plan. Like, what do you want? What do you want to do? You know, how much money do you want to make? I'm like, I don't know how much money I want to make. I want to make more than what I'm making now. So the real journey or the pivot that sort of happened was when I came to Oakwyn and I met Michael, and he just started making me look at things differently. You know, just sort of had me anchor my journeys, my personal journeys, like, you know, where do you want a vacation? Like, when you take a vacation, how much, like, what kind of vacation you want to take? And I'm just like, I don't know, a great one. How much does that cost?
You're a 5-star guy,
right?
Are you a 5-star?
No, I like nice things. So does my wife. So anyways.
I'm a motel guy.
I probably save a lot more money hanging out with Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to the vending machine for dinner, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff at the bottom, not at the top.
Exactly. So what was interesting in the real journey was being back in Vancouver and serving a community that I could connect with, if that makes sense. And people that I loved, kind of giving a certain level of service to that you won't necessarily, I'm not saying all of Vancouver's like that, but I think every agent realizes at some point they want an ideal client, and you have to go out and service that. If you meet that one ideal client and then you just continue to just stay in touch and serve, they send you similar people most times, right? And then the business started really picking up in that manner, and it's just like, oh wow. And then I realized, I do way more than a lot of other agents. I'm going to charge more. And most people would never question it. They'd just be like, okay, that's it. That's great. Let's just do what you're going to do. And I'm like, okay, fantastic. So the business for me pivoted when I came to Oakwyn and got my assistant, and sort of just took like time to time mentorship from Mike, and sort of him just sort of being like, oh, okay, don't do that. Do this. Do more of this. Like, that doesn't make sense. Just spend more time doing this. So it was really simple. It wasn't like anything like, not that you're not a rocket scientist, but
I am not.
Yeah, but just simple things.
I'm writing notes with crayon right now.
And it's interesting. So I have to give Morgan a tremendous amount of credit. She changed. So I never farmed an area till I did a deal with Morgan. Yeah. So
it was a good deal.
It was a deal.
Smooth as butter.
Yes. Hats off to Morgan. Working with her was awesome. But me and Morgan worked on a deal on Marina Side Crescent where she was a listing agent on a townhouse that came to market, and a client of mine that already lived on Marina Side. I was like, I want to buy that place. I'm like, okay, great. Let's get it. It was a great opportunity for a collaboration in-house and went super smooth. And when I did that deal with Morgan, Michael's like, you should send a flyer out to this neighborhood. Would you like to farm it? And I'm like, yeah, it'd be great. And I began sending flyers out. That was another pivot in my business, like an expensive one. But I was like, how much does this cost every month? So I was sending out a flyer every month, letting people know what I'm doing, just specifically to
Marina Side,
2,200 condos and townhomes on Marina Side Crescent. And something magical started happening. People started calling. And I'm just like, sure, I'll come meet you to tell you what your place is worth. And people be like, great, list my place. And I'd be like, okay, sure. And I was just like, is this real? Like, this is happening? And then I'd come back to the office and say, hey, Mike, somebody just gave me the keys to their $2.5 million townhouse on the flyer. And he's like, and it was easy, right? I'm just like, yeah, it was. So,
well, tell me about the first one, maybe that
I got a text. And the person's like, hey, and it's funny because when they sent me the text, I already had their number saved in my phone because they'd met me at an open house on Marina Side Crescent. Right. So they're like, yeah, do you remember us? I go, yeah, I totally do. Before listing their place, they're like, there's a penthouse listed around the block. And if you can help us buy that, we'll let you sell our waterfront townhouse.
Right.
I'm like, sure, let's go. Got them I'm like, yeah, I'll help you buy a penthouse. So I got into a multiple offer on that. We won that. And then they turned around and gave me the keys to their place. And they were just an older couple, like Roy and Lexie in their 70s.
Super cool.
Who swore up and down every time they'd meet me at an open house or see me walking down the street. Because back then I had a massive beard.
Yeah.
and like long, a man and a man bun.
A samurai.
Right?
If he had to wear a mask, he'd have to wear one of those beard masks.
Yeah. So I was pretty easy to recognize walking up and down the street. And they'd always see me and they're like, yeah, we know we're never going to sell, Nomi. We're never going to sell. We love where we live. Right. I'm like, okay, cool. Nice to meet you. How you doing? So they were the ones that ended up saying, you know what, we're getting older. We don't want a 2-level townhome. So we just want that 1-floor penthouse. I'm like, all right, great. So they're just sweet people. They're just like, great, thanks. We got the penthouse. Like we bought it like subject free. And they're like, okay, can you sell our townhouse now? And that townhouse ended up selling for $300,000 over asking.
Wow.
Which was a ridiculous number. This is 2017 when the market was rocket hot.
Right.
I mean, I thought that was hot, but what we just went through right now was just something else.
Yeah.
But so another flyer goes out, sold for $300,000 over asking. Right. I get a call from the board and the board says, I forget who the lady was. She called me up and she goes, is this Nomi Malik? I go, yeah. She goes, I'm holding a flyer in my hand that says that you sold a townhouse for $300,000 over asking. I go, yes. Good job. And I was just like, okay, thanks. She goes, but there's a slight problem. People are calling and complaining about your flyer. And I'm like, why? And I'm just like, she's like, well, everybody's starting to think that their home is worth that much money now. And I go, that's great. They should be calling me. I don't know why they're calling you.
Right.
And she says to me, actually, the challenge is right now, Nomi, is that one of the people that called was the person who bought the house.
Right.
And I said, really? And she's like, yeah, his friends are making fun of him who live in the community saying, are you the moron that paid $300,000 over for the property? And I go, so what have I done wrong?
Yeah.
She says, well, just do me a favor. When you're sending out these flyers, wait till the deal closes. I said, well, that's like 2 months from now.
Yeah.
This is today's news. And she goes, just do me a favor and just, if you can, maybe write a letter and just apologize, send it to the buyer's agent, forward it to, and I did that and I'm totally cool with it. But before she got off the phone with me, she goes, I love your marketing.
Right.
Who's designing your stuff? And I said, I am. And she's like, keep up the good work. Good job. That's the story off that one flyer that I sent. And then they just kept on going out. So I'm like, oh, it's working. Like people are taking notice. That first year I spent $38,000 on flyers and I did $263.
Beautiful.
In return on that.
Right, the ROI.
I'm like, Michael's so smart.
Well, like
simple and smart. So good.
It's on me. It's
that's what Michael says. It's on me. It's all
on
you.
me. No, it is all Nomi. I think identifying like where you what demographic of client you serve best, and also what type of property you enjoy selling, and identifying that farm. But I want to talk a little bit more about farms because it's Marina side has been a place you've been really successful in. So it's not just the flyers though. You do other things, right?
Yeah. So then I realized, well, paper is very expensive,
right?
And for realtors who are doing it, they'll tell you that it is. For realtors who don't, you don't realize like just the paper, the stamp, the envelope. And one thing that I was doing, which no one was doing, was they were handwritten, addressed envelopes.
Right.
Yeah. So that works a lot better than just sending unaddressed.
Mass.
Yeah.
So if you just do like a postcard, which works too, just, it doesn't work as well. But I started also then realizing there's elevators in all these towers.
Yeah.
So I'm like started counting all the elevators up and I'm like, okay, let's call the company that does the digital ad. And it's like a fraction of the cost.
Right.
And so I'm just like, okay, great. Let's do a bit of the elevators. Let's kind of peel back on the flyers. So I was doing that. And then I just did a lot of opens.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of agent where I would have, even if I had 7 or 8 listings, if there's an agent in our office that has a listing on Marina side, I'd be like, yo, you need a hand with that?
Oh,
and they'd be like, oh, sure.
Right.
Okay. I'm like, yeah, just so that I could continue meeting people.
Right.
And it still works till this day. Like the open houses that we just started back up on opens.
Yeah.
And again, this is just all how I farm the area. I haven't done an open house on Marineside Crescent for 1.5 years. But because people know me there, I've got a listing there right now, which came from a flyer. And I'm coming out the elevator I'm going towards the elevator out of the unit, and I see a resident coming out who I've been touch and go with.
Right.
Just from me holding the door open for him when he's pushing his kid in a stroller for the last 2.5 years. Yeah. And he's like, Nomi, what's going on? You're here. I'm like, yeah, I got this place listed. I go, you live on this floor? He goes, yeah. I go, but no. You live on the 28th floor. He goes, this is my other place too. And I'm just like, oh, wow, interesting. That open house turned into a conversation with him saying, I need you to sell one of these places and I need to buy like a $4 million house on the west side. Can you help me with that? Wow. And I'm like, sure. He goes, your kid goes to private school, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, I need your help with that too. I'm like, sure, no problem. Yeah. All from being at an open house. And just like, it's not just from that one open house. Right. Like agents who are listening that are maybe newer, don't think you're going to do one open house. That's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. I could, but these are just people who kind of see me come and go.
You've been doing open houses there for years though. And
I have, right? And people are like, oh, where'd all your hair go? It's like, oh, it's short now and whatnot. But like, it's familiarity, right? People just kind of like, oh, this is the guy, right? It was either me or Brian Higgins. Right. That's the other gentleman down there that does a truckload of business. So it's like people they want to do business with people I guess they've seen and kind of know. And that's what ends up happening. So it's the flyers, the elevator ads, the open houses, and you're just consistent.
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of some other real estate podcasts and stuff, they think geographical farms are dead actually because of social media and everything like that. But I think, I think Nomi's talking about focusing on a certain area and actually thriving and doing really well, which can still happen, which is really exciting. And
it can, especially when you don't do opens or we haven't been doing opens and people don't get to see you in person. Yeah. So I stopped doing flyers when the market got soft in 2018, 2019. Because I went, 2017, I spent all that money, brought me back that ROI. 2018, I'm like, oh, this works. Let's keep doing it. I spent the same amount of money and I barely broke even. I'm like, wow, people are not calling me. Right. Because the market sucks, according to them. Right. So I stopped doing that 2018, 2019. I just started doing it again this year. I'm like, all right, I had hired a girl who did 3 months worth of handwritten envelopes. And those have been sitting in my office for 2 years. I'm like, Wendy, we're mailing these out. The first mail out, somebody calls me and they're like, can you come take a look at my place? And I'm like, oh, this works. So we're doing it again for the first time after 2.5 years. Right. Every time a mailer goes out, 2 or 3 phone calls.
Okay. Let me ask you a question that everybody that's listening is really thinking. Sure. What are you putting on that flyer? What are the key takeaways from what you're asking on the flyer? What's your call to action?
So yeah, no, it's a combination of a beautiful looking flyer with the backdrop of Marineside Crescent on it, and a mix of a call to actions. So Michael again taught me that, right? Michael gave me a very simple template that worked beautifully, and then I sort of tweaked it and made it my own. So it's the one side will just be Marineside. These are all my solds. And on the other side will be my value proposition. And you work with me, I'm going to do these 8 things for you. These are 8 reasons for you to work with me. I'm highly referred. Check me out on Google reviews. We offer staging packages and credits for our clients that work with us. We offer cleaning services for you. Beautiful. It's just all simple stuff. Right. But when people who happen to be thinking about doing something read that, one of the first things they ask me when I get the appointment is they'll slide the flyer across and they'll go, is this all included? You're going to do this, and that? I'm like, yeah, it is. Really? I'm like, yeah, great. So a lot of the times, obviously there's good rapport and chemistry. A lot of times people just want to know, is it real what you're going to do? I had one really nice old lady call me from a private number going, I got your flyer and I need to know something very clear before we begin speaking. I said, sure. Did you actually sell all these places? I said, yeah, those are my sales. So they're not your sales from your office. Right. I'm like, she's really smart, this lady. I'm like, no, they're mine. She's like, oh, okay. And you pay for the staging? I said, well, a portion of it, right? She's like, oh, okay. Can you pay for all of it? I'm like, do you want to meet me? And we can talk about this? She was so hard on the phone.
Right.
And as soon as I walked through the door, she had like a cane and her husband had like a beard down here, like really old people. They just threw the keys at me. They were just like,
we're done.
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
Just, I need you. It was 3 bedrooms. The tenant left in the middle of the night. The place was just trashed. And I said, we're going to paint it. We're going to bring the furniture.
You did all that. Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
Right.
They're so old. They're elderly. They're from Richmond. They're like, you're going to do all this.
That's
you promise.
right.
She's like, can you put it in the contract that you're going to do all this? And she's like, she tried to grind me for everything. Like, can you also do this? Who's going to pay for the elevator costs when you guys are doing the staging? I go, you guys are, not me. Yeah. Okay. Sold her place for like 180 grand over asking a few months ago, which I didn't even think was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Fantastic.
Yeah. But I mean, coming back to what you're saying is the flyer call to action. It looks attractive.
Right.
There's a really cheesy picture of me on it. And just, call me if you want to know what your place is worth. And then there's in big block letters, no obligation.
Yeah.
Right. No commitment. And that's what she said before I went to the appointment. She said, so if I meet with you, Nomi, you know that I'm not going to necessarily work with you.
Right.
I'm like, no, it's totally fine. It's complimentary. Right. I remember showing Michael that one time. Complimentary. He goes, that's just too big, that word. Just say free. It's free. It's just like, okay, sure, whatever. Sure. But you're asking.
I like no obligation. I think that's way more classy.
Yeah.
It's more up your alley.
Again, you're targeting a certain client base.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. So
depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah,
right?
free might work maybe in another district.
Yeah, where I work.
Free.
It's fine. Look, everybody's drawn to language differently, right?
Yeah.
And I even know when I get into a room and I meet someone for the first time, how to kind of maneuver and speak to them. So if I'm in a room with a lawyer, and I know you work with tons of them, Morgan,
That's why I'm always stressed out.
Yeah.
I'm just joking, I'm not.
Yeah. They want everything done a certain way. They want everything black and white, and that's how you speak to them.
Yeah.
Decisions made fast.
Yeah, literally. Is this what you want?
Yeah.
Write it up.
Decisions made fast.
This is how you want it? Okay, great.
So really tailoring your approach to the client.
That's it. Where sometimes I walk into another flyer. No, this was an elevator call.
Right.
Can you come take a look at my place? Sure. Great. I walk in, and as the door opens, there's a waft of marijuana smoke that comes out. And this guy had to be like easily in his 40s.
Right.
Looked like a shaman, like a hippie guy. And I walk in. I'm suited and booted. I walk in, and on the dining room table, there's nowhere to sit because there's about 50 to 60 jars of different strains of weed.
Wow.
On the table. And I'm like, great. So I guess we're just going to talk because there's nowhere for me to put my presentation or anything. And that's all he wanted to do. Okay, come over here, man. Check this out. Like, I saw your ad. And then I realized this guy doesn't want to see a presentation. This guy just wants to figure out if I'm his guy.
Yeah.
And because I had a beard and I had like long hair, he looks at me and he goes, I've actually interviewed one other group.
Right.
Who's another competitor down there. They came in with their Rolex and they came in with,
boss lady.
Right. And I like you, man. You're very like
energy,
chill. And I'm just like, cool. Here's the paperwork. I pulled out the paperwork and I put it on like one of those jars on the table.
Right.
Can you just sign here, please? And he's like, okay, cool, man. And I'm like, so
he signed it with a vape pen. Right?
I know, right?
Are you like a hard closer? Like, do you find that like when you get in that room, are you like a hard close? Are you soft? Like, I'll send the paperwork in a DocuSign in like a day.
Never send it. Michael taught me. He goes, man, you're in there for that one moment, and the chances of you getting the listing after you leave without them signing goes down like a ball of flames. Like the chances of them calling you back is going to be low. So I've just learned to bring everything with me, and I just ask 3 simple questions. What do you think of the marketing plan? I think it's great. Fantastic. How do you feel about us working together? Yeah. Excellent. Wonderful. Is there anything stopping us from working together? And it'd always be like, I don't think so. Great. I've brought all the paperwork. I'll put it on the table. I'm like, why don't we get started so we can get this process going? So 2 things happen in that. People freak out. And they're like, whoa, we need some time to think about this. Michael taught me when people say that to be like, great, I'll just go step out in the hallway. And I'm like, okay, I'm not using that. But what I do is I say, okay, cool. what time tomorrow would you like me to contact you? Morning or afternoon? Because most people actually just need like 15 minutes. They're just gonna be like, do we like that guy?
We talk.
Do we trust that guy? Right. And so I'll do that. And people will be like, yeah, cool, no problem. But if I find that they're hesitating and they're like, they don't really know what they want to do, I will push the paperwork aside and I will say, just tell me what's on your mind. Like if there's anything I haven't touched on that you really want and you really need, so that way you don't have to keep having people come in and show you the same stuff and talk to you about the weather. Let's talk about that now. Or you can just tell me, it's not going to work. And in those instances, people are like, well, we were it's the price. And I go, so what's the price? Okay, great. Let's talk about that. And you just start talking, right? Because most people will trust you within a minute or two, right? And then if you want to call that hard, I will call it strategic closing. Okay. I don't know if it's hard closing.
It is strategic closing, but I think you have this immense amount of like confidence when you walk into a room. You know what? The confidence, like this might be like everyone looking at Nomi and he's the confident guy. Is there something that you say to yourself before going into those appointments or, that gets you ready? I think a lot of agents right now need that little bit of, what is it that I'm thinking of when I walk into that room?
I've been doing this for 11 years, and every time I'm walking into a listing appointment, I feel like I go to the bathroom. I'm so nervous.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
I think new agents out there and also seasoned, you're still feeling that little bit of a rush.
I think you need to, because at the end of the day, so there's, don't get me wrong, there are times where it's not that I'm prepared. Right. Because it's the same 15, 20 minute like presentation. Right. I'm like every normal human being. I hope they like me. What else is there? This business is not about how smart you are. This business is about people trusting you and liking you. That's it. So yeah, I feel nervous every time. I always feel like, am I really prepared? And what's going on? But I will say what's a little bit more challenging in COVID. Have any of you guys been showing up to listing appointments and worn the mask the entire meeting?
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
So I realize people trust you really quickly when they can see all of you.
Yeah.
Right? They see you and they're just like, oh, okay, great. So when the door would open, I'd put my mask on at that point. Right? Be like, hi, good afternoon, nice to meet you, big smile. How you doing?
Right.
So I'm just going to put this on now. Right? They're like, oh, thank you. Right? And I think that sort of helps them see.
Great tip.
I see this guy. Right. So, but I do feel nervous and I'm not that confident, Morgan. It's all a scam.
I don't know. Your energy is flowing,
Could have fooled me. Okay.
Do you feel like you have do you have a philosophy in this business? You've been in it for 11 years. Like what is your philosophy behind your big empire, your business there?
My tiny business. I think I care a lot. Actually, I shouldn't say I think. I know I do. I think sometimes I care too much, right? Like I want everybody to be happy. And that can be tough because then people have no challenge taking advantage of that. I had somebody buy a beautiful condo on Marina Side and he shows up. He does no inspection, no nothing, subject free. And he shows up and he goes, Nomi, the toilet isn't flushing. Oh, it's not? I'm like touching it. And here I'm like, well, does the toilet down the hall work? Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
And he's one of those personalities that are like, I want this dealt with now.
Yeah.
Call the agent now. Cool. I get on the phone with the agent. I'm like, hey man, it's me. The toilet doesn't work in the master. And? That's what he said. And?
No inspection.
I said, yeah, no, just out of a courtesy, right? Like, I'm just calling. It was a $2.5 million transaction. Sorry, $2.2 million transaction. And he feels kind of sour about it. Yeah, Nomi, I had to cut my commission to get the deal done. I can't do anything for you. Take care. He was an out-of-town agent. So I was like, all right, cool, no problem. So I turn around and he's like, so what's happening? We're calling a plumber. Great, fantastic. So just get the plumber to come out here, get him to, unjam whatever's jammed, right? I leave and I go get him to send me the bill. The plumber, I get a text, what's your email? Just get my email. Sends me the bill, $1,200.
What the? For Really? That's insane.
So you see what Mike?
Milano.
So you see
It's definitely Milano.
yeah. So you see the reaction Mike just had. Mike's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at this invoice and I'm like, I called the plumber up, like, can you tell me what's going on?
He goes, put like a golden handle.
Yeah. Right. And he goes, well, first of all, it was Saturday. So I'm not 75 an hour. I'm $1.50 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I show up and the toilet it's not like, we can't fix it. It has to be replaced. So I asked your client, would you like me to come back once you have purchased the new toilet and I'll install it? And he goes, no, I need you to get this toilet working. He goes, would you like me to go to Home Depot and get it? I'm like, I don't know. That's what he's like. He said, I don't know. Do what you need to do. So he goes, I drove to Home Depot and he's charging me $1.50 an hour the whole time. And he goes, the toilet's been installed and it's 6 hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, 8 hours, whatever the heck it was, right? And I'm like, cool, no problem. I called the client up. I go, hey, I just want to let you know I got the invoice. It's $1,200. Yeah, I know. He showed it to me before he left the house.
Jeez.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I contacted the agent and he's not willing to help me out on this. And I want to help you, man. I go, at the end of the day, like, I mean, I just wanted the problem solved. You just moved in. So, I mean, I think it's really generous if I just split the bill with you. And he looks me dead in the eye and he says, Nomi, you told me you were going to look after this for me. And I said, cool. Yes, I did. Don't even sweat it. I've got it. He goes, thank you. I appreciate that. And he goes, that's why you're such a great agent, Nomi. And I'm like, cool, thanks. And I was like sour about that. I was just like, wow, he actually thought it was normal for someone to pay a $1,200 bill for a toilet. So what I'm just trying to say is being sort of
like caring,
nice, and just wanting things to go smooth. And then he referred a $4 million listing to me like 3 months later.
Oh my gosh.
Not that makes what he did any less like shocking.
Yeah.
But I was just like,
I feel like that's a majority of my clients. I just pay for that. It's terrible.
But I mean, just in terms of philosophy, like, I mean, like Mike's got his philosophy written, on his listing presentation. We make people happy.
Yep.
Yeah, the only way to make people happy is, yes, we'll take care. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, that will never happen again.
Servant mentality.
But there comes, what I've learned to do is set expectations. Right. I'm setting expectations, and then it's not that I don't care.
Right.
It's just that I'm less of a care bear. Like I'm more of a hey guys, like I'll take care of this and that, Right. Like the lady grinding me, like, are you going to pay for this? Are you going to pay for that? But yeah, well, we'll pay for the elevator. That's on you. Okay. Me before.
You gotta draw your boundaries, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And then again, everything boils down to and let's be very real here, right? So if it's a $2 million transaction, I'll take care of a few things. Right. Right. But like, I'm not going to do that on a $500,000 condo. I'm a very different person on a $500,000 condo. I will serve and be whatever I do, but what's being offered is not the same.
Yeah. You got to do your cost benefit analysis. And I think treating it like a business is intelligent and smart. And I think that's like, but again, having that client focus is really key. So where do you see yourself going from here, Nomi? Like, obviously you have your team, and
tell us about your team.
I don't necessarily have a team. Right. I have my assistant, Wendy, who's fantastic. And my previous assistant, Ben, who's now a licensed agent, I refer a ton of stuff to him, buyer stuff.
Right.
Or if there's somebody who I think that's somebody I like a lot, I'll continue to send business to them. That's a great question. I was talking about this morning to my wife. I'm like, we need to set some new goals. She's like, oh yeah? Like what? I don't know, fun goals, things that we're just aiming towards because we're so fortunate to have a lot of things that people may not necessarily have. And I'm not saying we need them, but my son's very lucky. He goes to a great school. We take nice vacations. We don't really worry too much about stuff. But then there comes a point where it's like, okay, great, that's fine. Like, what else are we doing in life, right? So we are working. I'll be honest with you. I could either continue to just do more business, or I can maybe make time to do things that are not business related. So that's what I'm focusing on right now.
Yeah, just weighing them out.
Yeah, because you can always make more money, right? leveraging yourself and having a team and bringing people on, and that's great. And that's more time and mentoring than it is like physically being sort of, dealing with the transaction. Yeah, I don't know. I probably want to spend a little bit more time on me, just doing things that maybe are a little bit more personal and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know, business-wise, I can't really speak to that.
I feel like everyone right now is starting to make time for new business planning, like for planning.
Yeah, I think
it's like a new age.
Well, we've just been through
major
COVID and everything like that, and the fog is seemingly lifting. Hopefully, it does lift, for us all. And so I think it's good to kind of refresh and kind of look at it and be like, okay, what's the next step for us, and which direction are we going to go, and what do we want to keep, and what do we want to make some changes with, which is really exciting.
I will say this though, when it comes to, so you asked me about sort of where's the business going to go from here. So my son is 9, and if there's one thing I've realized my business has made me sort of wake up to and look at, which is, I think it's really important, because my son he's now 9 and he can actually say to me, he's like, Dad, you're always working. Right? I'm like, yeah, I am. So business for me is like, okay, great. I've done this much business. Now I'm going to go like be an assistant coach on my son's softball team.
Yeah.
Right. So I did that.
I got to get into that school. I just realized like my son needs to go there.
And it's cool because now I'm coaching and he's watching me play. Cool. And then it's just like, okay, now coaching his team inspired me to play on the Oakwyn softball team.
Cool. Yeah.
It's funny because Mike's awesome assistant Jill was like, I guess, organizing the team.
Right.
I was overhearing it and I'm like, I'll play. And they were like, oh, really? I'm just like, sure. Right. So it's funny how doing recreational stuff outside of business helps you kind of come back into the fold, because what's interesting about this business is how people perceive you. I'm pretty private most of the time. Like I'm not super social in the office and outside of that. And it's funny when I meet the handful of agents that I consider to be friends with, I'm like, do you guys think I'm a very serious person and I don't have time for fun? They're like, yup. All of them collectively, yup. Right. And I'm just like, really? They're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. Asked my wife that, do you think I'm like just always about work? Yes, Nomi. You're very intense. And I turned to my assistant, Wendy, am I very intense? You're very focused. That was good very assistant. Diplomatic. So I've realized it's time to sort of just,
what's important.
Morgan, I don't know if it's about important. It's just about kind of dialing down a bit. And, like Michael hasn't been in the office for 2 months. I'm like, where have you been, man? I've been at home being a dad. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. Right. I'm like, good for you, man. That's awesome. Right. So I've been spending more time. I was playing catch with my son yesterday for an hour. Well, he's pitching, so we're actually like honing his pitching skills.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So,
this kid.
Yeah.
Woo.
Well, yeah. So then there's that, and then there's swimming, and then there's skiing, and there's just so many things. I'm just like,
right.
That's what they say. By like 7, 8, that's when I'm like, I need to like not be, because that's when they're going to need your attention. You know what I mean?
Right. But like, I'll share this. I've never done this in my career before. Right. So we just came off the hottest market we've ever seen in the history of Vancouver. So January, February, and March, for whatever it was, the gods did not pour any rain on me.
We had a sit down about
so
that.
I was like, January went by and I'm like, why are we not busy? Right. But what ended up happening was my son and all his friends from school are all going up to Whistler every weekend for a ski camp, and I was not going because I was stressed out. I'm like, no, I gotta be here. I gotta make business happen. And the business wasn't happening. So my wife's like, can you just come ski with us? Right. And I'm like, I don't ski. I don't know how to ski. Those 3 months, January, February, and March, I skied every weekend with my son.
Right.
And all his friends' parents. I got to know them all very well. And I went from falling on my face literally every like 30 seconds to bombing down the highest hill in Whistler at like rocket speed. Not saying like I was in control, but like it was.
Nomi.
Yeah, no.
That's really dangerous.
My son will be the first one to say, my dad is a very dangerous skier. Don't ski with my dad. Right. But what ended up happening is I realized, wow, this is the actual one sport. Do any of you ski?
No, I used to.
I skied when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to.
So it's the one sport you can actually do as a family. Like I can otherwise I have to watch my son.
Right.
right? So it's like we're doing it together. We're falling down together. I'm eating snow. Like it's so humbling. It's humbling because none of the dads were like had the patience to put up with me. So it was all the moms that would be like picking me up off the snow. And I'm like, I look like such a loser in front of all these women. And then I'd always be like skiing behind them. And, you know, everybody be at the bottom. And they're like, come on, no, it's okay. So it's like you go from being like super confident in all the areas you're comfortable with to where my son is like, Dad, I think you should do this. You're going to hurt yourself. Right. So I barely did the kind of business I was anticipating for those 3 months, but I did all this skiing, right? Something I've never done before. And I had to be like, okay with it, but I wasn't okay with it. Like half the time I was doing it like afterwards. Then I took a meeting with Mike. I'm like, Mike, I think I've lost my mojo, man. Nobody wants to work with me. Nobody's calling. He's like, if anybody knows Michael Yu, he's like, he's really good at cheerleading. So is Morgan. Michael's like, don't worry. The next 3 months is going to be triple the business and you're going to be great. And turn off your social media and who cares about what everybody else is doing and just do you and everything's going to come to you. And Michael says this, he's so poignant. He goes, you don't know me. Sometimes you got to walk through the desert and feel like the dry spell so that you can appreciate that glass of water or that oasis that appears when you're done walking through it. And I was like, all right, that doesn't help me right now. Right?
Thanks for nothing.
Because now I realized how little business I was doing. I'm like, I'm in a desert, Michael. Great, fantastic. I don't see any oasis right now.
Now I'm in a desert.
You know what I'm saying? But no, I gotta. So there's a silver lining in the story. Like, as soon as we turned the corner on April, like April, May, June was like, by the grace of God, like amazing. And it's like, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually further halfway through this year than I was last year. And I'm like, I don't understand it, but that's just what it was. So I don't know, maybe not doing more business is the solution to just being content and sort of being okay with things.
Well, I think that, you know, if you've been a successful agent for like Nomi, being a successful agent, multi-year medallion, and you go through a dry spell, you can, you can get really comparative with other agents and, you know, everyone's selling a lot and, you know, I find that it's really toxic, and you or even compare against yourself last year, for example. You know, sometimes it's funny. I look at like old pictures of myself. I'm like, man, I was good looking before. No, I'm kidding, but I was a little bit better than I am now. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly the same. Oh my God.
I'm kidding. But you know, I think that's something that, you know, and then there's some pressure on you too, because everyone kind of, you expect this of yourself, and people like you assume that people around you, the people that love you the most, expect that of you too.
Totally.
And your value is just attached to how you perform. And I feel like that is like a journey to unhappiness and a journey to misery, where your happiness is completely tied to your performance. And we had kind of some of those kind of conversations. And specifically when you compare with others, it really makes it really challenging. So, you know, to really frame things out and, you know, take some new perspective and talk to friends and get a bit of that perspective. It's huge. And, you know, I knew you were going to bounce out of that. You know, I'm a huge proponent in, like, for every action, there's an equal or lesser reaction. So if you're doing the appropriate actions, it's gonna come, but you have to continue to do the right things. So if you're not getting business and you're not doing any prospecting, you're not doing anything, nothing's getting sent out, you're not being consistent in the things that you were doing before, of course the results are going to be poor. But if you have the right systems and plans and, you know, the farms in place and
execute well,
and you execute, then, you know, the result might not come like tomorrow or even today, but, you know, in time it'll it'll wear down and it'll come. So it's exciting.
Such great advice, Michael. Thank you.
He's your new shaman.
No.
He's your shaman.
No, it's just it's such a joy to have like a great relationship. Like Nomi and
you
I
guys are such good buds.
Yeah,
and I've seen you guys' friendship come together. Just on my side, I obviously think you're super confident, and now I'm like, you guys have spent 6 years together. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, wait, who's the better baseball player? That's what I want to know. Who's the softball player?
No,
are you a ringer, Nomi?
I have a girl arm. I throw like.
I can't speak
to underhand.
I can't speak to that.
I can bowl.
I can bowl.
Golf with your family together too. Golf is another one.
Yeah, I don't play, and that's gonna. That's just gonna. We're so spread thin with this kid. Right. I swear to God, it's like it's crazy. But yeah, no, I mean, coming back to what Michael was saying, yeah, it's agents who are listening or anybody that are listening, because you can apply it to any business. It takes a certain mindset, not necessarily just to do the business and achieve great things, because I'm sitting in a room with two people, Morgan and Michael, who are just incredible producers and people who do a lot of business. And I personally believe it comes from the discipline and just doing things over and over again. And then the great surprise is like, oh my God, look what we just did. It's great. But then it takes another mindset as well to be okay with not performing that high the next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to be okay with that. And that was my challenge in the first 3 months, which is like, okay, why am I not even doing my normal business?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you have to actually be okay with that. And that requires a mindset, right? Like just training and telling yourself, like, it's okay, you're good. That's it. You got to keep your self-talk, all these buzzwords that everybody keeps
like the buzzwords.
But in genuine, and then it takes
your habits.
You gotta have somebody rubbing your back. Yeah, my wife, she'd be like, Nomi, it's okay. We're going to be fine. And I'm like, you have no idea what's going on in my head right now. She's like, no, we're good. Everything's going to be great. Right. And for me, it wasn't even like,
good.
For me, so for me, it wasn't even about, oh my God, we don't have extra money to do these things, but it's literally about being productive. So if I feel like the production is not happening, I feel like this big. And that's
I think a lot of business, and I'm so glad you're being vulnerable with that, Nomi, because I think a lot of people feel that way, and it's something that
I have. I'm sure you have too.
Totally. Like, for sure. Like I've had moments where I've had moments of like
breakdown moments.
Yeah, I would be like, will you still love me if we lose everything? Like, like, will you still be around, or is everyone going to desert me? And then she's like, I will be around. Like,
now I have a kid. I have to be around.
Yeah, she's stuck.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, it's so that's what it is because this business is a very lonely business. Mm-hmm. It is. There's no one that can convince me differently. You're in your own head all the time. And then, of course, you have your people around you. Like, you have your team, Morgan, and Michael, you have yours. But ultimately, they are not. They're like, okay, tell us what to do.
They're right? Like, give me some money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's most of the time you're just like, go. And you're like, I hope this works. I'll just do these activities. I hope it'll work. But so it being a lonely business, you need to really spend time doing things that make you feel confident no matter what happens in the business. So I got a healthy family. Mm-hmm. That's important to me. And they're not just healthy, they're happy. Yeah. Right. My son's like, when's dad coming home? Or, where's dad? Well, so those are things to me. I'm just like, dad's working. Right. Or when I'm home, it's just like, then I'm like, oh, that's great. My son misses me. I should be like, I am in demand, even though my clients are not calling. Right? Keon, buy a house. Come on, do some business with me, right? Yeah. And my son is 9 years old and we're driving to school and he at 9 knows. So when you have a listing, everybody comes to you. But if you have a buyer, you got to drive everybody around. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, keep getting more listings, Dad. I'm just like, thank you. I will remember that today after I drop you off to school and go to the office. Right. So, but that's, you sort of have to, you have to anchor your, who you are into the things that are very real. Because at the end of the day, business is, it's a business till you're dead. and then it's not real anymore, right? Like, and then it's just a business, because no one's gonna miss Nomi Malik from the real estate business when I go. People are just gonna be like, next, who's the next realtor? Okay, great, sell my house, right? Whereas like you anchor yourself in these relationships with people, and then you're like, oh great, I'm not gonna be here anymore. That's great. My kid loves me. My wife thinks I took care of her, and my mom and my dad are like, even till this day, my mom's ticket agent's like, you are such a great son. You like send your mom here and send your mom there. And I'm like, yeah, why not? She's like, my son doesn't send me anywhere. I was like, okay. I go, I'm in a position to do it, right? So, I mean, that's what it is. I know my mom doesn't like love me because I send her places, but like at the end of the day, my mom's like, thank God my son can send me places, right? So it's stuff like that. That's just.
I hope Quinn listens to this one day and he knows that you should send mommy.
Well, no, that's the thing is that the kids don't know. My son goes
to a therapist.
My son, put money aside. Put money aside for that. And anybody listening right now, okay, if you're a real estate agent and you're doing well, one of the best investments I've ever done is like from time to time see a therapist.
Yes.
Like someone who does not know me. And he's the coolest guy in the world. He's my age. He like wears striped socks in the meeting with no shoes on. And he's like, don't call me doctor. Just, call me by my first name. And he's like, what's up? I'm like, I'm feeling all these things, man. And he's like, scribbling notes. And he'll do a big timeline on this. Like he's got a board like this. And he's like, okay, start from here. And then he's like, yeah, you're perfectly normal, man. So I just need you to do this, and that, and just focus on this. And, these are normal things to feel and go through. And keep coming to see me if you need to flesh all this out. And then I'll go home. My wife's like, so you're nuts, right? Did you tell him you're nuts? Tell him that I told you already and I should be getting $200 an hour, that you're insane. And I'm just like, yeah, no, he told me I'm normal. She's like, oh, he's an idiot. I'm just like, so I would highly recommend, because I think there's some sort of like stigma attached to going to see someone for like,
never.
Yeah.
I think used to, not now. I think that
right? Yeah. And that's mostly ego, right? Ego and pride for a lot of people. I can admit as well, I've seen counselors and things like that before. It's a form of catharsis. And I feel like, specifically as an agent, a lot of people like Nomi's toilet story. We have to deal with toilet stuff. And, people are coming to us with, requests and, with deep problems and stuff like that, and we're kind of like the oracle for a lot of different solutions. And so it's nice to kind of be able to have some outlet for, to be on the other side of the table and just really, have a chance to just let out some different frustrations, but
steam.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes you got to do that with someone who doesn't know you.
Yeah.
That's right. And the clear, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That actually can just like put you back on track.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've ever found this, and everybody in this room, can probably know someone like, I got to talk to this person. But even when you're talking to them, you may not be 100% real. Because you have that relationship with them, you're like, I can't tell them everything, so I'll just tell them this part. And then they give you whatever advice they are giving you, and you still go away and you're like, yeah.
And then you judge them on them being that certain way.
So that's why talking to a stranger, it's just like everything comes out of my mouth like rocket speed, like this, and it's like, help me,
right?
Like, let's figure it out.
I think a lot of people do either go therapists. Some people have coaches, counselors, psychologists, whatever it is. But it's always nice to have another person on your team.
It is. Yeah. It can help. So
that's cool. That's a great takeaway.
That would be a tip, just as a human being.
That's a nice takeaway.
That's a great
keep
tip.
your mind.
Time has flown by. It's been a whole hour. It's been an hour already. So, so maybe we can just say, Nomi, maybe a tip for a new agent.
Okay,
and the most important tip for a new agent, and the most important tip for an experienced agent.
Yeah. So new agent, join a team. Period.
That's a good one.
Period. That's it. Sorry, man. Or girl.
Yeah.
You don't know nothing, unless you come from a huge network of people who you are a social butterfly in, then just join a team. And joining a team doesn't mean you're dumb or you don't know enough, or even if you're 45 years old.
Should be proud of that.
Join a team.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to learn at like a rocket speed, and obviously join a team like that suits your personality.
Right.
You will be a better agent for it. Mike Marfori, who's probably bar none the largest and biggest and most successful agent in the Fraser Valley, started the same year as me, lived in his mom's basement, and he started on a team. Started on a team, and that was it.
He just bought a nice house.
And he did it for 8 months, and he learned a lot. His listing presentation, his style of doing things is still to this day out of that 7-8 months that he's on the team. So, I mean, no one's saying you need to be on the team forever, but start on team. That would be just as simple as that.
How about for an experienced agent?
Come see Michael Yu.
Yes.
Take a meeting with Michael. Michael is probably, if I've got questions and I need sort of to understand how to pivot things, I will talk to Michael. But if you don't work at Oakwyn, if you're not licensed at Oakwyn.
If you're not working with Oakwyn. Still come.
Yeah. If you're not, then just join and then talk to Michael.
Pod 2021.
Yeah, exactly. If you're experienced agent, it's sometimes you just got to do basic things because you get lost in all of it, right? Sometimes, and you just sometimes forget, like, I don't do opens no more. Who does opens? That doesn't work. I still have agents till this day go, "No, you told me to do opens. They don't work." And then I'll shadow them for like one of them, and they'll be like, "Holy shit, that was different." I'm like, "Yeah, Michael taught me that too." Very simple stuff. Yeah. So experienced agents, I mean, maybe doing activities that you might not be doing because we don't realize what we're not doing till we write it out because everything's in your head, right? You're kind of like, "Oh, I did that." No, you didn't. Oh, no, I was doing that. Yeah, like a year ago.
Yeah, always returning back to the basics, and it's like Nomi said earlier, it's a people business, and that's like it's a key and important thing. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Nomi, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was amazing. And thank you for being so transparent. And so thank you guys for listening to the Oakwyn podcast as well. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate it 5 out of 5 on the podcast platform you're listening to it on. Or if you're interested in Oakwyn, Nomi was very kind. Plug Oakwyn a lot, but thank you so much. Go to oakwyn.com/join and type in the message box pod 2021 and you will get a free piece of mystery swag. Until next time. Thanks guys. See you later, Nomi. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was awesome.